to Connections, the Forum for Relationships, Expression and Healing, and we are in episode 30. Our show offers single episodes and short series of talks and interviews regarding the most important areas of human life, such as relationships issues, personal expression and self-development, as well as healing of all of these areas. And the purpose of our show is to give you inspiration and also to teach you skills with which you can handle the issues which are connected with your own growth and development. And today we will talk about the power of music. And this is the episode number 8 of our mini-series about emotions. So welcome again to Connections, the Forum for Relationships, Expression and Healing. And I'm Heidi Hornlein. I'm today alone because my co-host Margarita Christolodis went for holidays home to Sweden. I'm, as I said, Heidi Hornlein. I'm known also as Adelheid Hörnlein from thepowerofrelationship.com. I'm a transformational coach, a relationship counselor, and also a voice therapist and coach and musician, a singer. And I am the host and the owner of a wonderful place in Italy, which is called Paradiso Integrale, where we hold retreats for relationships, also for music. And this is also the name of an association, which is founded to bring into the world our message, also via Hangouts. I do that together with my husband, Mark. Today, as you see, I'm alone here, but I have 2 wonderful guests. And one of them is Kate Barbour. She is singing like a lark. She is a singer, and she has a website with this name. And her passion is to teach people how to use their voice for their own joy and benefit. And singing as healing is one of her big projects. And the other special guest is Lisa Engles, and I think almost everybody who is watching knows her quite well from her shows. This is the Hangouts with the Visionary Leaders and the Power of Practice, and also by her frequent appearance in other shows as a guest. There's much more information about her. Please look into the description of this event if you want to learn more about her, and also find the URL. You might find it also here on the lower thirds, I'm quite sure. So today, music. Music has an extreme power over us, and we might be aware of it or not. It can be used to heat people up, you know, to fight. In wars, there was a practice to let the soldiers sing, to be more courageous, to go on. But it can also be used, and that's what we want to talk about, for healing purposes and for influence our emotional state. So again, welcome to our show. And who is watching later, please, please engage with us here on the event page or on YouTube. Let us know who you are, where you are coming from, and your comments and your take on this topic. So both of you, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and Lisa especially. You are in 6 in the morning, and I really appreciate it a lot that you are getting up so early in the morning.
It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here.
Wonderful. So Lisa, in one of your guest appearances 2 or 3 weeks ago, you were talking about that you are a musician too, which I didn't know about you, that you are playing some instruments and that you have used them for your own personal growth. And I just would like to invite you to talk a little about that.
Yeah, it's something like I think I had said in a couple of posts I've done. It's the one thing that most people don't know about me is that music is a profound, like, integral part of my life and part of my personal practice. as well. And as you know, Heidi, my show is The Power of Practice, and I'm very much a proponent of practice. But I had always been interested in music, but never considered myself musical or a musician. But I believe that we all are musical, and we all have that capacity. We are walking. Each of us is a walking polyrhythm, right? I mean, we have all the rhythms going on in our body, our eyes blinking, our heart beating, our our cycles, our internal biological cycles, everything. We're a walking polyrhythm in and of itself. But my whole life I had been an athlete, and by the time I turned 30, in my early 30s, something shifted for me, and I realized that wasn't doing it for me, and I wanted to explore music, and I found a teacher who's actually out of Austria. Him and his wife at the time live, they're from Austria. Their names are Reinhard and Cornelia Flatischler, and they teach a process called Takatina, which is a musical healing process, is the best way that I could put it. And I decided to sign up for the training, which was a 3-year commitment of intensive training using this process and music as a healing practice. But for the process, you had to learn how to play music too. So I became a percussionist in that journey. And I don't perform music. I use music as a healing modality for myself. But I can play and do play several percussion instruments. The South Korean chongo, which is a drum that you play either with your hands or sticks on the side. The berimbau, which is a Brazilian percussion instrument. Often people are familiar with it because of capoeira. And the surdo drum, which is also a big bass drum, often used in Brazil as well. And not too long ago, I guess like almost 3 years ago now, started playing with the tabla, which is the Indian percussion, Indian drums. Now, again, I'm not a performer. I almost hesitate to say I'm a musician from the standpoint that I don't perform, but I use music as a practice for healing. That's just like a really short little snippet of my journey into music. It happened in my 30s, and it took me to a very humbling place because it was all about becoming a beginner again and not being good at anything. And for a person who likes to be good enough and good at everything, it was in and of itself a wonderful personal growth journey.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. This is very interesting. And I especially liked when you said we humans are embedded in music. It begins before our birth, when we hear the heartbeat of our mother, when we hear all the noises the body makes from inside, and the little embryo hears that all the time. And later on, we are always surrounded by music. Also, we often don't think that it is music because we have a very concise and restrictive concept of what music is.
Yes.
And also
absolutely.
what a musician is. And I do consider you a musician even if you don't go out into the public to play. But you are playing, you know.
Yeah. And to add on to that piece is through Takatina and through that work that I did, a big piece of it is leadership and learning how to lead people into what's called a rhythm journey. So it requires the leader to sing as well, which is very vulnerable, and the two of you can speak to that very much as vocalists and singers, that the voice being the fifth chakra, or fifth chakra, right? If anything is blocked there in your expression and that form of creativity, of being able to express yourself, it's very hard and vulnerable to sing in public and to sing and have your voice be heard and to hear your own voice in its full power for the first time is very transformative in and of itself. So just add that little piece, that the voice is very integral as well to my practice, and the singing piece is big as well.
This is fine, because voice is our first instrument as human beings, you know.
Yeah.
Voice and body as percussion instrument. You can use everything, but the voice gives you the direct expression, and it's where you can also see if people are authentic or not. It's very much by the sound of their voice. And we both, Kate and me, we are working with people to give them back their authentic voice and to overcome their fear of getting up and talk or sing. You know, you are really, Lisa, very good in stepping up and talking. And we will do another hangout, hopefully, where we will all sing, if this is possible.
Yeah. And talking is different than singing, and finding your resonant voice, as my teacher would call it, your resonant voice is very different than, I don't know what you would call the other voice, non-resonant voice, or, but I think that's what you're talking about in terms of authenticity. It would be synonymous with the resonant voice. It's deeper, it's more in your chest, it's more full, it's not quick and contracted, and there's some spaciousness in it, and timing and rhythm to it.
It comes out of yourself, you know, out of your whole being. That's what I would call it, and not only out of a part of it.
Yes.
I would like to ask Kate what she is thinking about it, and also, maybe first, what is your approach to use voice for healing? And I have published in the event page a piece of the song you have sent to me, which you have written shortly. If you want to talk about that too, please do.
Mm-hmm. Well, first, I must say that, Lisa, you just spoke out of my heart. It's absolutely wonderful to hear from somebody who believes, you know, that you are not such a accomplished musician and you are doing it only for yourself. So I just wanted to tell you that that is a complete misunderstanding, cultural misunderstanding about what music is about. And that is what has been so painful all my life, because you are engaging with the primary function of music, and it's about our true self, our authenticity, and also about our health, because where we are tuned as music instruments, you know, our bodies, our hearts, our minds, our music, which is our life, let me use that metaphor, is beautiful, it's harmonious. And when we are not in harmony, when we are not in tune with ourselves, we don't make very nice music. That is our life. And as you know, there are a lot of cultures, and you probably learned a lot about it when you went on this wonderful course, which I want to hear a little bit more than in private, that the previous cultures, the people, the natural people, the Aboriginal people, the Native Americans, the Eskimos, all these people, they were using music as a part of their lives. As you said, it's my practice. It was their life, it was their practice, it was their expression. They didn't divide music into entertainment. They would be horrified, say, music industry, you see, music production, or even music performance. It's really about our culture, and this is why it's so difficult for us voice coaches, and even for you, if you wanted to promote this view of music. People are actually having a difficulties to understand that, because they've been immersed so much in all these pop idols, X Factors, and the music is a performance. And for me, because I like performing, I still find myself very often in a conflict, because I want to perform, but I want to have that healing in it for myself. I don't want to be judged. You know, it's really it's a process. It's really evolutionary process, even for me, to harmonize these two aspects of music and make it as a whole. So I'm very happy that you started off so beautifully, because it's absolutely spot on. And I will finish with my talking about that song that I wrote lately. It was triggered by a fantastic film that you probably saw. I hope that one of you, and it's called Begin Again with Keira Knightley, about authentic singing and songwriting. It's a beautiful film, and it's really giving the music industry a very hard time, because it's showing all the you know, the power game, the celebrity culture, and what it actually does to people, to their lives. And my husband took me there. We have a local place here for movies in Aberfeldy, where I live, and it's a beautiful cinema. And I was so inspired that I just thought, why I'm not writing music, and why I'm not, you know, writing my lyrics and everything again, because it's such a beautiful process. And that's why I wrote it. And it is a healing song, but it's a healing song for me. And it's also about a new beginning, because I moved to Scotland just a year ago, and to a beautiful area, and I'm just starting anew. So that song is actually helping me to live my life. And it's really not yet for sharing in public, but it's very appropriate for this moment, for this hangout, because we are talking about it.
Kate, here is a comment for you. Being in tune, body, mind, emotions, and spirit. Never thought of it that way before. Thank you, Kate. This is wonderful, isn't it? That we can inspire people to think about these things in a different way than they normally are guided to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is a very I mean, I just agree with everything that you're saying, Kate. It's the music and the being in harmony with it. Music tells you everything. My fiance and I, that was our connection point, was music. He's a master tabla player. He's been playing for over 30 years. And he plays, you know, he knows people like Zakir Hussain, and his teacher is Swapanda Chaudhry. For those people who are familiar with the Indian music scene, those are like the Michael Jacksons of that world of music. And we talk about this all the time, that music is, we've all heard that thing, music is a universal language. But when you step into the realm of music as a practice, it tells you everything about where you're at right now in this moment. That was one of the huge things that I got in my training with my teacher, and I started out with those 3 years and then decided to continue my work with him for another 3 years. And is that when you, whether your instrument is your voice and your body, like stepping and clapping and singing can be in and of itself its instrument, or your instrument that you're playing, whatever it is, when you're contracted and in a contracted state, your music shows up differently. You're off rhythm, you're faster, you tend to push the tempo. Or if there's control issues, it's very interesting, like the psychology of music to me, like where the control piece of warping the tempo, and it's all related to our internal state. So music reveals everything about ourselves, and my teacher would always say, when you try to control that's when things start to fall apart. It's about allowing it to be expressed through you. It, like the capital IT,
Yes.
Being expressed through you, right? And when you let go and release control, which is a practice, right? That being in everyday life to not be in control and gripping and hanging on to things is a practice, but in music it's a real practice to let it be expressed through you. What wants to come through, what wants to be expressed, takes a different form of listening, a different form of sensing and feeling in the body. And that's just like a couple of the things that music has brought for me in my practice in music.
Yeah, and I would add a little bit about my own journey, because I was bred up in this idea that music has to be everything perfect and, you know, clean and so on. And this brought me into, I had a nice voice from the beginning, a very small voice, but nice. And the more I went up and I even sang in a professional choir, the more I get contracted for fear not being good enough, for fear of failing. And then I went onto my own journey to find out how voice really is. And exactly that happened, what you say, Lisa. At a certain point, I understood music and singing, you cannot study like something else. You can prepare something and study it, but at a certain point, you just need to give up to have expectations and to want to control it. You know, you have still control, but it's a different control. It's not the doing thing. You have to do that and you have to do that. You have to relax. Otherwise, nothing really enjoyable comes out.
I can totally relate to that. How many of us have heard someone sing whose voice isn't technically perfect and maybe doesn't even have the quote-unquote best voice out there, but you're so moved by their singing? And then you've heard someone else who has a technically perfect voice and, you know, beautiful, beautiful, but you're not moved by them, by their singing. It's like that, I think, is how I relate to what you're saying, and that authentic voice. Your voice doesn't have to be perfect, and it's that where it's coming from, which you can't make that happen. You have to let it come from you.
Exactly. This is both of them. You have an intentionality, but you have also to allow it to unfold, you know. Otherwise, and the same is with instruments, you know. This is the same. I know a very good violoncellist, and he was really had quite good engagement in orchestras. He would have been much better if he could let go of his, it must be perfect, you know. So his play is always good, but it's never like, And this is, for me, this is the secret of really good musicians, that they can allow, they are good technically, probably, otherwise they couldn't come there. But then they have this opening of their being, and let, in the case of the voice, but I'm sure, like Sue Ashton with the violin, it is going through the whole body, through the whole being, and then it can come out as a heart-touching expression of oneself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I just say something?
Sure, you can.
I would like to say that in many ways our culture let us down when it comes to music, because it stole the joy and the naturalness and the also enjoyment as a group from us, and it created something instead which is trying to say that it's bigger and better. Think about the pop music, how few singers could be really listened to if they didn't have all these attachments around. That means a big stage, lighting, dancers, you know, all the meat. If they really sang a simple song with a guitar, you know, there are very few people who would capture other people's hearts. because we made it into this big thing, and that the big thing is all what matters for people, the visual effects, you know, all the surface. And this is exactly what you said, both you mentioned, that it's actually about the self-expression. It's about the big it, big it. And when it happens, and sometimes it happens with small children, people suddenly start crying, and wow, it's a miracle, you know, how could this kid do this to us? But that is it. That it's what is natural, but that is actually life, and that is love, and it's joy, and it's all in it. We don't need to build up a big theater with, you know, with all this. We can do that too, but not to the expense of the other side of singing, which is so intimate. It's so beautiful. It's so it's also very introverted. It's so naked. You know, it's so naked.
And this would
I think that our culture has misled us so much.
That what you say is an inspiration for mothers to sing for their children, play music with them.
Yeah, I agree. Even if it's just little fun, playful, you know, me thing. In other words,
Even
like
if
just
it's not in tune,
Like,
if it's not in tune, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter.
Right, and totally goofy, and that's okay. And but to your point, Kate, I know really interesting. My teacher had done all these studies. He is, I should say, very much into the science of music and how it affects us physiologically. And with the onset of all of the digital music, where there is a drum or a bass or loops of digitally created music, that he found in his studies that it's completely devoid of the emotional effect on a human being. So there's something about man-made music, meaning acoustic, or however you want to, you know, electric guitar, fine, but I mean like not a digitally created beat and digitally created music, has a completely different psychological effect on the human state of being. And I think that that's what you speak to, Kate, in saying we've been robbed of this experience of what real music really is. We've been sort of like the glitz and glam of the lights and the dancing and all of that. So great. But what we've forgotten is how to listen to real music. And for instance, last weekend we had an Indian music concert at my house. We had 8 musicians here playing 3 sets with sitar and tabla and sarod. And my daughter was here. She's 12, and she's never sat through Indian music before. It was a completely different, it was like she couldn't, it was hard. She's like, okay, 10 minutes. She's like, oh my God, I can't do this, Mom. Oh, it's like, okay, you expect that of a 12-year-old. But if you look in India or in Bali with gamelan music, those kids grow up listening to pieces of music that are an hour to 2 hours long. That's one song, right? We're programmed to our attention span to be 4 minutes to 6 minutes max with a song, but music is hours long. I mean, I don't, you know, I guess you look at classical music the same way. But I think we have lost the art of listening to music, and for me, that has helped me in my work as a coach, how to really listen, acutely listen when I'm working with someone.
Yeah, Lisa, you are so right, and I think we have lost the art of listening, not only of music, but to each other. We don't listen. Everybody wants to be heard, but almost nobody wants to listen. And I think we could use music and listening to music to educate ourselves again for to be able to really listen by observing while we are listening what thoughts come up, what
Right.
impulses to run away, and so on. For me, it's a meditation exercise for becoming a listener.
Absolutely.
Tell us more about you, Kate.
No, I just have a little comment about what
Yes.
Lisa said. I find it fascinating about the Indian musicians. They tune before concert. They come and they tune their instruments for 1 hour. And it can happen when they feel that the spiritual harmony, the energies are not right. They just say to the audience, today it's not right. And they
And
go.
and they also stop in the very middle of a piece, and they'll like be, I need to retune, or the really good ones like my fiance, he'll tune his tabla as he's playing it in accompaniment with. It's crazy. It's like they're very much always attuned, no pun intended, to being in tune with each other.
Yes. And it's
and like you're saying with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Music can be a very, very important tool for all of us. The listening to music, but I would really encourage everybody to just do music. I don't know if both of you know Evelyn Glennie, the deaf percussionist of Scotland.
Mm-mm.
There is a wonderful film which is called Touch the Sound. It is a film about her. And she's teaching you listening. And she is making music with everything she finds, Just trying, have a pen, and I have here the computer, I have a glass, and she is very, very gifted in percussioning, So there comes out really sound waves. I really highly recommend to. I can put it in the event page afterwards, her name, and she's in England. And she's the only classical percussionist who has, when I listened to the film about 10 years ago, 40 composers have written pieces for her. And she is deaf when she was 10 years old or 13 years old, and they know they couldn't follow at school, and 15% of be a musician, and she is telling so beautiful. Before the world was open for her, she could do everything, and afterwards she couldn't do things she wanted to do. It's a little bit like people who think they cannot sing because it's not immediately coming out everything nicely, and then somebody says, you cannot sing, and then bong, everything is closing for them. And Evelyn was so lucky to have parents who supported her, and they found a teacher who taught her how to listen with the body. And now when she is performing concerts, she needs a concert hall with a wooden floor so she can perceive the music, the vibrations through her feet. And you would never think that she's deaf. The first time I heard her in Oxford in a music therapy congress, and I didn't know that it was her. And she has such a refined perception of vibration and physical perception, listening not only by the ear but with the whole body. I was, and later I understood that it was the deaf musician, and I was even more in awe. So, we don't need to believe we are constricted to what other people say we are or we are not able to do. We need to go and do it and enjoy it and go for it when we like it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to pull up Kim Boltman's comment here. Totally agree with Kate and Lisa about the emphasis of music shifting from simple, beautiful songs to glittering extravaganzas. Audiences seem to clamor for shouting, singing, and no one seems to know what a standing ovation truly means anymore. I think that's, yes, I agree with Kim, that one.
Absolutely, absolutely. No one knows anymore how a real voice sounds, because with these strange fashions of putting voices in a pseudo, how do you say, pseudo seductive way. You know, they do strange thing with their voices, and then these singers often don't know how to do it. You know, if they knew how to do it, would be one thing, but they don't know, and then they ruin their voices, and then they have to sing by playback. And what expression is that then, when they cannot sing anymore the songs they could sing 3 or 4 years before? You know, because the voice has said, no, thank you, that's not what I want.
Right. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit, Kate, about your approach with clients when you sing with them, or what do you do for the healing process? Because Kate is using music for healing.
Yes, I will be very brief, and I will show you what I'm using. This is just a shortcut to what I'm really doing, and because everything is evolving, so I'm actually really evolving what I'm doing. But it started in a very practical approach when people came to me. They were very stressed out, you know, from the office. They came from stressful jobs, and then they were supposed to start singing with me, and they were so you know, tensed. So I just said, I need to do a relaxation. And then instead of doing the classical relaxation on the floor and the breathing, I started using Tibetan bowl, because that sound, of course, is helping to create relaxation and the tuning of your body and mind very quickly. And then I discovered that I can go, I asked them to lie down, and I went through their chakras with the bowl, and that way they had a very profound, deep relaxation experience. And then they got a glass of water, not glass of wine, glass of water, and then we could start singing, and that was a completely different thing. And my practice is very much about listening to the voice. You know, I see through my ears, I would say. I see the voice through my ears. And I'm helping the person to dissolve the blockages, the obstacles, to become aware about the relationship between your thoughts and your physical experiences. And the blockages, of course, they start here with these different ideas, and then they become a physical experience when you feel, you know, this is tight, when you feel this horrible thing, you know, that people have, when they do ah 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 ah, they say, that's my voice, that's horrible. They are afraid of themselves. So I have to come out with even more horrible noises, not the beautiful angelic voice that I can produce, but also with very horrible voices. And I said, listen to me, that's me too. Ha ha ha. So we play like children. We also sometimes use the sound of different animals. You know, like the American Indians, they are very good at these things. And people, when they start working with the voice, trying to imitate animals, they get over this thing, oh, this is my voice, and look at, you know, the self-awareness, the horrible self-awareness and the judgment, self-judgment. So, but I have so many different ways of working with each individual. I use chakras, I use instruments, I use movements, but it's really different with each person, because it depends on the level of awareness of the cultural conditioning, because some people are quite free, but some people, they are so blocked. You cannot even tell them, oh, poor soul, you've been so brainwashed and so blocked into how you should be that you can hardly, you know, express yourself. I almost feel physical pain sometimes with some people. So I cannot tell them. So, you know, I have to start at a completely different level and see where the openings develop. And then see the opening and work around. With some people, it's really very much about movements. With some people, it's about breathing. With some people, it has to be through talking. They need to tell me their story. And when they tell me the story, they are more willing to open up. So I cannot really define my coaching because it's very intuitive, but it's a lot of
I would call it an
knowledge.
integral way. It's an integral way to voice, you know.
Okay, thank you for telling me.
Yeah, I have created what I call integral voice training, and I'm working not like you. I'm much more body-centered and psychological-centered and soul-centered. You are soul-centered too. But I mean, I'm much more in the inner vibrations and perception of how my body works and how my psyche works and how I'm conditioned from the past and to get off the conditioning. I don't want to say that you don't do it, but sometimes I use movement, but not as consistently, I think, as you do that. Anyway, it is much fun. Everybody who thinks you cannot think, oh, you cannot sing, it's just not true. You can sing, and even before playing an instrument, you can sing because you are born with your voice. And at the beginning of your life, you didn't speak, but you did sing all the time. So if you are inspired to sing, do it. Find somebody who takes off the blockages, because you might find somebody who said, you better don't sing in this way. This is wrong. This is not in tune. And then you shut down again. No, find somebody who is leading you the way to until you may be in tune, you know, but not from the very beginning. You don't need to be in tune in the very beginning. And especially children, if you have a child up to about 10 or 12 years old, when children don't sing in tune, don't tell them, shut up. Don't tell them that they are not good. Don't tell them, because in this period of their lives, they are not interested to go in the same way as others, to adapt to a group. Afterwards, yes. But if you tell them when they are 6 years old and they sing whatever they like instead of what you sing, and you tell them, stop it, you cannot sing, they will take it their whole life and believe it. And it is not true. Because when they have the right age and they want to belong to their peer group, and if the peer group sings, they will learn to sing in tune, for sure. Okay, I think we are at the end of our show. Thank you, both of you, to Lisa to get up so early, and Kate to sacrifice the siesta today.
Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you very much, and I would invite your last word. You can say where people can find you, and also what you would like to tell them about the power of music.
Do you want me to go first? Sure. So you can find me at innerstatecoaching.com, which is on my lower third here. That's an easy one. I also, as Heidi said, have my show, The Power of Practice, and Hangouts with Visionary Leaders. You can always find me on Google+. And the power, for me, music is just an integral part of my personal journey. And I agree with what's being said here with Heidi and Kate, that music is an absolute necessary piece of who we are as human beings. And if it's not in your life as a practice of some sort, besides just turning on the radio and singing to a song, but go out, find a teacher. Here's 2 of them right here that teach music, you know, explore these things, explore your voice, because it's important, and it's going to reveal things to you, and about your true self that you may never have known had you not explored music.
Wonderfully said. Thank you, Lisa. It's so true. Kate?
Because everything important has been already said. So I want to just say, if you want to, you can visit singlikealark.com and enjoy music. And this is my saying goodbye.
Thank you, Kate. And you can find out about me as a voice teacher, integral voice training, and my website, which is in German but translatable, integralvoice.de. So, as I said, go out, make music. You don't need to buy an instrument. You can use whatever is there to get out sounds. Listen to the sounds, even to sounds which you don't like. Listen into it and see how they are different from other sounds and how they go together, you know, and you might find music in them too. And you will exercise your listening capacity, which is so, so important for being fully human. So thank you very much, and bye-bye, and to our next show, where we will be talking about sustainability and growing your own food. Sustainability and self-sufficiency, that was the word. And we will have special guest Wayne Madder, who will talk with me about the pros and the cons of being self-sufficient. So we invite you, because maybe you don't know, but I'm living on a big farm. At least it was a farm. Now I have only olive trees, and I had many animals. And for about 5 years, I was a full-time farmer. And I have a little bit to tell you about that. So bye-bye, everybody, and thank you.